On to the game of the day, UConn and Fresno State. This was a real thriller. Unfortunately, I've only seen the highlights. Looking forward to catching this one never. 45-0 final for Fresno State. Things went about as expected for UConn. They didn't pass the ball effectively at all. Jack Zaragotis, I believe is how we pronounce it, got the start. He was terrible. The only pass catcher of note for them was kind of their target hog, Cameron Ross, who had 5 catches for 37 yards with a long of 13. Ross is a guy I wouldn't necessarily give up on in fantasy. He's going to be valuable in PPR formats because he's going to have some 5, 6, 7, 8 catch games because he's really their only target. The run game was absolutely dominated. They had 31 carries for 35 yards, no touchdowns, a long of 13. Kevin Mensah got the bulk of that work. He had 11 carries for 31 yards, but absolutely nothing doing there for them on offense. The biggest takeaway here is Fresno State's defense was an extreme liability last year. And with the understanding that this is UConn, who hasn't played football in a very long time and is going to be, in contention for worst team in the FBS with New Mexico State, holding them to only 1 yard per carry is a pretty impressive feat. So without having seen the game, just seeing the raw numbers there, potentially some reasons for optimism surrounding Fresno State in that regard. On offense, the passing game really they did whatever they wanted. Jake Haener kind of continued his hot 2020 season. He finished 20 for 26, 331 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. The primary passing play that I saw was an 86-yard touchdown to their stud receiver, Jalen Cropper. He looked like he caught the ball around midfield, maybe took a hit, shucked the guy, and went for 86 yards. He paced their rooms in terms of yardage. Ronnie Rivers, their running back, who's very versatile, had 2 catches for 66 yards and a score. We come to expect that as a pass catcher for them. Then Eric Brooks was their next most productive receiver, who had 5 catches for 61 yards. They spread the ball around here a ton. I think it looks like almost 10 guys caught balls in this game, which is what you'd expect in a 45-0 blowout. That's what you want to do. Passing game looks like it's going to be just fine. They had the 2 long plays, the 86-yarder, the 61-yarder, and then another 37-yarder, which were definitely their chunk plays. But other than that, the passing offense doesn't appear on paper to be quite as explosive. One interesting thing of note, if you just kind of extrapolate out Jalen Cropper's his stats, he had 2 catches for 1 yard, and then his 86-yarder, which really bumped his numbers up. And he's certainly capable of that, and it's going to be a real challenge for a lot of people to stop in the Mountain West. But I think this is an extremely deep wide receiver core where they're going to get contributions from quite a few guys. So really talented pass offense. If I was going to have any negatives that I were going to draw from Fresno State, again, without seeing anything other than the highlights, 38 carries, 156 yards, and 1 touchdown. That's only 4.1 yards per carry. Ronnie Rivers had a long of 16. They didn't run the ball very well at all last season. And there were some games where Jake Haener just had to throw the ball like a maniac. I mean, I don't even remember. I think he had a 50 or 60 attempt game last year without referencing exactly what he did, just because they were so unable to run the ball from a traditional standpoint. Looks like that could be an issue here again. Definitely worth noting to see. I believe they have Oregon next, so they're not going to be able to run the ball at all there. So again, that's going to be kind of the inverse of this, where that's going to be a waste of time for them to even run the ball. I think they're going to have to throw the ball over the yard to try to remain somewhat competitive there against that Oregon front. But I'll be curious to see, once they get beyond that, how effectively are they running the ball? Because I don't think they want to be as out of balance as they were last year, where they're asking Haener to throw the ball 40, 50 times a game. I just don't think that that's the recipe for success. I do think with his skill set and the pass catchers they have, as well as Rivers' ability to catch balls out of the backfield, that they are set up to have a relative amount of success doing that. But I know that that's certainly not the plan. So definitely going to be watching to see the ground game in the front for Fresno, both on offense and defense. Can they run the ball more effectively once they get past Oregon? And can they put up any type of defense against what Oregon's going to bring to them on the ground in this game. Even if they get gashed here, again, to be expected. Doubt it's going to be as bad as what Hawaii got from UCLA. But if they can keep those numbers manageable, I'll feel a little bit more optimistic that the defense may have taken somewhat of a step forward. So not a whole lot to glean from this one, not a whole lot to cover. On to the next.